Hello, and welcome back to Crit and Crit. I'm Sint,
I'm Axia.
and we are continuing our brief discussion into Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart while we play through Castlevania, Circle of the Moon. Last time we didn't actually talk about the story so much as we did just a brief overview of Poe's general life and the influence he had over the literary world. Which is primarily, as we said, known for horror, but also a lot to do with mystery and science fiction.
I don't know what this card does.
I think if I remember my Yu-Gi-Oh correctly, it breaks the rules because you have silly anime hair.
Nathan's hair isn't that silly.
Then he's hardly worthy of playing Yu-Gi-Oh.
Anyway.
As I've heard it, only card game anime has hair that stupid. Anyway, so let's talk about The Telltale Heart. Axion, you picked this one. Why?
One, because it's got kind of that creepy, eerie factor to it. And two, because it was one of Poe's works that I feel doesn't get a lot of attention.
I'm actually going to disagree with that. I do not know, a single 8th grade teacher that doesn't do it. So, it might be better to say it doesn't get a lot of attention after school.
Okay, we didn't study it at all in my school growing up, so...
Well, we've discussed your school quite extensively, I believe.
Yes, apologies for believing my own experiences are the average.
I wish I could hover in the air when the elevator moved.
Do you really? Is that really what you want?
I mean, I would like to know that if the elevator moves out from under me, I'm not going to die.
Oh, Nathan doesn't take falling damage anyway, so...
Well, that must be nice.
Especially when he's got the giant shooty shoes that let him not really fly, but jump good.
But yeah, I think one reason that the Telltale Heart might not be discussed as much as you might perceive others would be, is that it seems so much simpler than a lot of his other stuff.
Well, for one, there's nothing supernatural or bizarre about it.
But that's not unique to it. I can already think of at least 2 others that have no supernatural elements.
I didn't say it was. But
I know, it's just...
I'm just pointing out a few reasons why it might seem somewhat overlooked compared to those that might have more unusual traits that make them more interesting to many readers.
On the one hand, yes, but on the other hand, one of the other ones that comes to mind that has no supernatural influence in it would be the Cask of Amontillado, which is better known and often more discussed, I think.
Maybe, yeah.
The other one would be the Pit and the Pendulum, where there's also no supernatural element, he's just being tortured by the Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah. It might just be my own personal experiences, but if you told me to name 3 Poe works, The Pit and the Pendulum is the only one of those 3 that I would name. Cask of Amontillado and Telltale Heart would not be on that list off the top of my head.
For the love of God, Montresor.
Oh, hey! It's Frank.
See, even Castlevania is nicer to the creature. They give him a name! Sorry, wrong book. But yeah, I don't know, like, Telltale Heart would be one of the first ones that comes to mind for me. Like, that, Castlevania, and I think Fall of the House of Usher would come up before Pit and the Pendulum for me. Which is funny because I think I've read Usher once.
Yeah, for me, it would be The Raven.
It's not a short story, so disqualified.
I specifically said Poe works. I did not specify short stories.
Okay, in that case, The Raven would definitely take top spot.
The only reason Pit and the Pendulum is on my list is because I had to do a project involving it in school. But yeah, Raven, Pit the Pendulum, and I'm drawing a blank now because we've got those others that just got mentioned, and now I can't think of anything but those. Point being, well, I have a relatively small experience with Poe.
Yeah, I actually haven't read a whole lot of Poe either. I've just, like... Okay, a lot of them, I'm going to be honest here, as I am once again the registered trademark worst English teacher, most of my classic literature knowledge actually comes from Scholars Bowl. So, I've read a lot of SparkNotes summaries so I could win at competitions when questions came up, but I haven't read a lot of the books in full myself, something I'm working to correct when I find the time. Except Moby Dick. That was a mistake, and I will not be making that mistake again. Anyway, we need to talk about the plot of Telltale Heart.
We got really sidetracked this time.
Okay, do we want the lengthy summary, or do we want the simple summary?
I mean, the simple summary is just a dude made a murder and is now basically bragging to the cops about it.
Not exactly. I murdered my neighbor because his eye was weird, and I kept hallucinating that his heart was beating, and I confessed to the cops because I was freaked out. Not really a brag so much as, okay, his body's right here, just make it stop.
No,
and the cops
but the story starts with him bragging.
True.
Because he's like, you call me crazy, but I'm not crazy. A crazy person wouldn't have been able to plan this brilliant murder scheme.
Okay, that has the same energy as my Pathfinder Oracle saying, of course I'm not crazy. Would a crazy person have the focus to build an entire army of clockwork golems to defend the kingdom?
And yet it's what he says. It's how the story begins.
I know, I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
So yes, the story begins with a man imprisoned proclaiming his sanity and using the fact that he has recently pulled off a murder as the definitive proof of said sanity, because an insane person would not have been able to master the plan that he has put together for this murder.
And the plan, I'm just gonna move really, really slowly and quietly.
I mean...
Like, when I say slowly, I mean, it took me an hour to place my whole head within the opening so far that I could see him as he lay upon his bed. Would a madman have been so wise as this? And he does this for several nights, so he can practice getting in there quietly.
Yeah, the entire argument is very silly that he's trying to use his capacity to pull off a murder scheme as proof of sanity is weird enough and silly enough and kooky enough on its own. But then everything that follows is just...
Yep. And his justification is solely, his eye freaks me out. And then when my head was well in the room, I undid the lantern cautiously, oh so cautiously, cautiously, for the hinges creaked. I undid it just so much that a single thin ray fell upon the vulture eye. And I did this for 7 long nights, every night, just at midnight. But I found the eye was always closed, and so it was impossible to do the work. For it was not the old man who vexed me, but his evil eye. And every morning when the day broke, I went boldly into the chamber and spoke courageously to him, calling him by name in a hearty tone and inquiring how he had passed the night. So you see, he would have been a very profound old man indeed to suspect that every night, just at 12, I looked in upon him while he slept.
Given the description of the old man's eye, I kind of wonder if he's supposed to be blind.
Don't know.
So it would just add one more sense of you're an absolute nutcase to the protagonist, that he's complaining that the old man is staring at him, and it turns out the old man is completely blind and doesn't even know what he's looking at. Because the way the eye is described as having a strange film over it and staring unmovingly,
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense.
that sounds like an old man with cataracts who's either blind or very, very limited vision.
Yep. So the 8th night, he basically has to do the thing because he screws up and makes a little bit of noise, which wakes the old man up. I kept quite still and said nothing. For a whole hour, I did not move a muscle, and in the meantime, I did not hear him lie down. He was still sitting up in the bed listening, just as I have done night after night, hearkening to the death watches in the wall. Presently, I heard a slight groan. I knew it was the groan of mortal terror. Not a groan of pain or grief. Oh no, the low stifled sound that arises from the bottom of the soul when overcharged with awe. When I had waited a long time very patiently without hearing him lie down, I resolved to open a very, very little crevice in the lantern. So I opened it. You cannot imagine how stealthily, until at length a single dim ray, like the thread of a spider, shot out from the crevice and fell upon the vulture eye. It was open, wide open, and I grew furious as I gazed upon it. I saw it with a perfect distinctness, all dull blue, with a hideous veil over it that chilled the very marrow in my bones. But I could see nothing else of the old man's face or person, for I had directed the ray as if by instinct precisely upon the damned spot.
A little bit of Shakespeare reference there.
But even yet I refrained and kept still. I scarcely breathed. I held the lantern motionless. I tried how steadily I could maintain the ray upon the eye. Honestly, the fact that the old man does not react to having a beam of light directly in his eye, yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right, he's blind. At least in the one eye. The old man's terror must have been extreme. It grew louder every moment. For some minutes longer I refrained and stood still, but the beating grew louder. I thought the heart must burst, and a new anxiety seized me. The sound would be heard by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. With a loud yell, I threw open the lantern and leaped into the room. He shrieked once. Only. In an instant, I dragged him to the floor, pulled the heavy bed over him. I then smiled gaily to find the deed so far done. But for many minutes, the heart beat on with a muffled sound. The man was dead. I removed the bed and examined the corpse. Yes, he was stone dead. I placed my hand upon the heart and held it there many minutes. There was no pulsation. He was stone dead. His eye would trouble me no more. So, yeah. The neighbors might hear the sound of his heart beating and come look. This is a logical thought of a sane person.
What the neighbors do hear, however, is the yelp he made just before he died. And when morning comes, or near morning, I think he says it's like 4 a.m.
Yeah. Oh, they might have also heard the whole sound of dismemberment because he had to cut the body small enough to shove into the floorboards. But he was careful enough to make sure there was a tub to catch all the blood so he wouldn't make a stain. No one will know. I am smart and clever. Just ask me.
I'm so wise. Would a insane person be able to do this? To be able to plan ahead so thoroughly. So,
Can we just note that he's planning ahead and then had the whole plan almost derailed by panic?
I mean, as you do. Something, something, no plan survives first contact with the enemy.
Yep. But yeah, the neighbors heard a shriek and called the police. And the officer said, yeah, we'll come check it out. And he said, look, I screamed because I had a nightmare. I'm sorry. The old man's not here right now. He's visiting people. And I let them search everywhere. See? They won't suspect anything. And honestly, they don't.
Well, that could be one reading of it, yeah.
According to our narrator, they don't.
Yes.
But the officers were satisfied. My manner had convinced them. I was singularly at ease. They sat, and while I answered cheerily, they chatted of familiar things.
And this is the part that makes me think that the narrator, being so confident that he got away with it, is incorrect in his assumption that the police do not suspect him, because the police don't leave. They sit there and just talk about inane, normal stuff. And to me, this is a hint that the cops know something's up and are waiting for him to get uncomfortable enough to spill the beans.
Which seems to take about 5 minutes. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, given how he described how much he hated this guy, I wonder if the complaint was like, hey, I heard a scream from the neighbor's house, and yeah, he's the guy who's always kind of making this really weird look at the old man.
He's got it out for this old blind guy for some inexplicable reason. I mean, he's a harmless old blind dude. Ow.
But yeah, just, he hears the old man's heartbeat. Heartbeat. Beat. Beat. Growing ever louder. And the officers don't react to it. Because you're insane and hallucinating.
It's like they don't hear it at all. Don't hear it at all.
And then when he does confess, he accuses them of lying. Villains, I shrieked, dissemble no more! I admit the deed, tear up the planks, here, it is the beating of his hideous heart! And the cops are probably like, that happened? Or like, yep, we knew, we kinda had a feeling. I mean, I'm gonna say the fact that he was up at 4 in the morning, ready to receive them, probably was its own suspicion.
Yeah, that was probably one of the first hints they got that something was actually up, in that he was awake at 4 and greeted them cheerily. Instead of coming to the door grumbling because he was tired and they'd woken him up at 4 in the stupid morning. Or...
So, to be fair, we know plenty of people, selves included some days, who might be like, so, why are you up? Oh crap, was it not 11 anymore? I was gonna go to bed at 11. Sorry, got stuck in a raid.
Calling me out, why don't you?
I'm just saying, as times change, it becomes more acceptable to still be up at 4 AM. In some circles.
I miss when I had a second shift job and could be up until the middle of the night. Because I didn't need to be awake until closer to, like, 10. Because I didn't have to be at work until 2.
Yep.
Alas,
Never had
those
that
days are
experience,
gone.
unfortunately.
They did not last long for me.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the Telltale Heart.
Yep. I think that sums it up.
So we shall return to this.
Portals. There we go.
Yeah. Teleport maze. Woo!
Not again. So yeah. I think we've done enough grinding and leveling. and exploring, so we're going to actually try to fight the next boss next time. And we're going to continue our discussions of Delta Heart. See y'all then.
Bye.